Hello and welcome to the video. Today I'm going to be painting up one of the death warbands from Warhammer Underworlds, and we're going to be painting up the Headman's Curse. I thought that these specter, ghosts, wraiths would actually be pretty easy, but they ended up being a little more challenging than what I thought. But before we get started, I just wanted to say, if this is your first time here, my name is Gigan. I like to share my miniature painting, and the goal of my videos is to show that anybody can paint up some decent looking miniatures to a tabletop quality standard and get them on the table ready to play. So once I cleaned up all of the mold lines and filled in some of the gaps, I started off by priming them white. Now I thought it would be best to start with the cloaks and paint them black, but had I to do it over again, I might have painted the lighter parts first and then saved these cloaks for last. I would have just had to have been really careful with them, because doing this first and then painting the lighter parts, I actually had to go back and make a lot of corrections on the black parts, so I think it would have been smarter to do this afterwards. But I like to show my mistakes in these videos that hopefully you learn from them, or if you make mistakes you don't feel bad about it. You can easily just keep painting. You can fix almost every mistake. It's just paint, we can paint over, it's no big deal. It just takes a little more time sometimes. Now I am curious if anybody out there played old Warhammer, fantasy Warhammer. Let me know if these types of units were in the vampire army. I can't remember if they had ghosts and spirits like this, or are these more for Age of Sigmar? I played Lizardmen, Skaven, and Chaos back in the day. I never really got into vampire counts too much. Now for their spectral undercoats, I decided to use this Briar Queen contrast paint. I thought that the color really matched well with the box art, and the contrast paints are very easy to control or to let them run into areas and darken them up. Like I wanted the parts by the black cloaks to be darker, and then as they go down away from the model to be more white. I really like using these contrast paints. I've slowly been building up my collection of them with different colors. They're just really nice and easy to use. They're definitely a valuable tool that, I highly recommend picking up a couple of them. They work really good on flesh as well. Like to do some contrast painting on flesh, I think really makes painting flesh a lot easier than having to go in and trying to highlight, trying to wash and shade everything. I think that the contrast paints are the way to go. Now when I let these guys dry, I actually put them upside down. I have these little alligator clips that I was able to hang them off the edge of my desk and let them dry upside down so that the contrast paint would run more up near the black cloaks there where I wanted it to be darker. Because otherwise they would have probably run down some and then it would have darkened up the bottom, which is the exact opposite of what I was looking for. For the skin, I'm using this Way Watcher green glaze, and I am really scraping the bottom of the barrel with this. This pot's almost empty. I've had it for quite a long time, so I'll have to pick up some more. I don't even know if they make this kind anymore, but if not, I'm sure I can find something similar to it. And all I'm doing is just putting a very light glazing over top of the skin because I just want it to have just a hint of color to it. I'm going to come back over this. Once this dries, I'm going to come back and I'm going to use an off-white to bring back the pale color of the spirit. Now while that's drying, I'm going to come in with white and I'm going to do a dry brush from the bottom up on those inner robes. I want the bottom of them to be the brightest white and then gradually fade into the light blue part that's closest to the black cloaks. I thought that a dry brush here would be the best way to blend the two without having to go back and forth with the white and the blue and do some wet blending and such. I kind of wanted this to be a little bit faster because wet blending looks fantastic, but it really takes a lot of time to make it look right and to not have certain lines in it. So I like to use dry brushing when I can. I've kind of gotten away from using dry brush so much, but every once in a while I still use it for certain miniatures. And if you need to, like I did, I just went back and I just darkened up the area, the topmost part of the cloaks here, just to give it a little bit more of that blue color so it stood out some more. Now that the glaze is dry, I'm coming back in with this beige, and I'm gonna paint the vast majority of skin on these guys because I want it to have that pale corpsey look to it, but I wanted that just green undertone to show, you know, in between the fingers, around the wrist area, and just to give it a little tinge of color. And now with the majority of the miniature painted, I'm just coming back on each one of them and painting all of the little accessories that they have. I'm using chainmail to paint the chainmail and to put down a base coat on the swords that they have, and the one has and the chains that are on them. But they all have a little bit of variety as to the different parts that they have. So from here on, I'm just going back and forth on each miniature, painting each little accessory on them. On this one here, I'm using some of the Agrax Earthshade to go over the scroll that he's reading. The shade will just get down into all of the little lines and make the writing appear better. And it's like, I wonder what the scroll is meant to be and what he's pointing at. Could this be a list of all the souls that he's come to collect? Or all of the people that he has a grudge against? I don't know, maybe it's a magic spell. Once the shading dried on this, it gave it a nice old paper look to it. So it was pretty easy to do with just a simple wash over top of it. Now, to highlight the black cloaks, I chose to go with dry brushing again. And I used this ghost gray that I have, which is, it kind of has a little bit of bluish tinge to it. I'm not sure that I would have dry brushed these guys if I had to do it over again. It gave it like a chalky look to it. I think it would have been better to just paint the highlights on rather than use this dry brush, because I wasn't too happy with the chalky look that it gave to them. Now I tried to calm it down a little bit by doing a black wash over top of it. It still didn't come out exactly how I wanted it to. But I mean, at a distance on the tabletop, they look fine. Like it doesn't look chalky or anything like that. But if you pick it up and really examine it, you can see it. But I might go back at some point and fix these guys. Something else that I wanted to show you all was how I painted the candles. I thought that the box art had a really cool idea with the candles having a green flame to them, and then they got almost black at the end of that, at the flame tip. So I thought that it would look really neat, and I wanted to try it out. So I put down this yellow color first as like the hottest part of the flame. And then I switched over and I started using some speed paints and washes and a little bit of black paint to just kind of mix it. And I just kind of went back and forth, putting one layer on, letting it dry, mixing a little bit of the other colors in just to blend them some, and then applying those, let them dry, and just kind of keep working it back and forth, back and forth. A lot of wet blending here on these to get the desired effect, but I think that they came out really cool. I was pretty happy with how they look. It's just something different. It gives it a real spooky kind of look to them. And I also just took a touch of the green wash and added it to the candles to show some of that green light reflecting on them. Now here, I totally forgot to record the part, or I accidentally thought I was recording, but I wanted to show off for the rust effect on the swords. I used this Vallejo Game Color Special FX. It's Corrosion Galvanica. And this stuff did an amazing job on making it look like it was kind of rusty. And all you do is just shake it up really well and put a little dab on it throughout wherever you want it. You don't want to paint it on, but you want to kind of dab it on, and it gives that rusty look to it. And for whatever reason, I totally didn't film that part. But here I'm just going back in with a silver and just highlighting a little bit on the edge of the sword and where the cuts are, and to tone down some of the rust effect on it. And if you don't have any of these special paints, these texture paints or special effects paints, you can always just kind of use a mix of a brown and an orange to get the same look for this rust effect. Now for the spirits coming up out of the ground where the big guy is stabbing his sword in, all I did was come back to my Waywatcher green glaze and I'm just going to put a simple glaze over top of all of these guys. I didn't go back and do any highlighting or anything like that. I just did one coat of the glaze, and just the way that it ran into the recesses and it lightened up on the high points of it, I thought that it did a nice job of giving them a spectral effect, almost like a little bit of a glow to them. And now with that, I'm just going to paint up the bases and call these guys done. And here we are, they're all finished. I'm really happy with how they came out. I really like the blue and the white, sort of how it transitions from the dark to the white. I think that the candles came out really cool on the first one. But overall, for tabletop quality, I think that they look really nice. The only part that I regret is doing the dry brush on the black. If I'm highlighting black again, I think what I'm going to do is actually try to paint the highlight on and not so much with the dry brush. It just came out too ashy looking or too chalky looking for me. But I mean, you know, every time you paint something, you learn something new. You learn what to do, what not to do. So even mistakes are great for learning. And as I said, at an arm's length on the tabletop, these guys look really good. I hope that you enjoyed watching me paint a little bit, and I hope that this inspires you to get some of your miniatures painted up. And now that these guys are all finished, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.